Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of A Little Jaded. It's been a minute, but we are so happy to kick off the 2025 round of Music Industry Insights. This is actually the second episode of the month, so if you haven't checked our previous episode running down our Jaded University 2025 program, be sure to go look at that. And yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to my co-host Joanna, who will introduce our guest.
Yes. Hi, everyone. It has been a minute. I think our last formal episode was back in December. It's been a minute, but we're really excited. We're kicking it off with a really good one today, with a topic that we've wanted to cover for a while. I think we just needed to take a minute to really hone in on like how we wanted to cover it. And today's guest is actually one of my really good friends and coworker, Brenda. She is a radio promotions assistant and social media producer at Bonneville International. So thanks for being here, Brenda.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about pretty much all things radio, all of your experiences in radio. And obviously, like I said, Brenda is also my coworker. We work together. That's how we
Mhm.
initially became friends. So yeah, I guess let's just jump into the first question. To kind of kick it off, you started with Bonneville, which is the company that has a multitude of different radio stations. You can kind of go into that if you want to and like explain that. But can you talk about how you kind of got introduced to the opportunity and like what led you to wanting to work in radio?
Yeah, so how I got started in radio, I initially went to school. I studied mass communications, which involved like radio, television, film, just like broadcasting. And it just so happens that a lot of the people that went to my school also work now at Bonneville. So that did kind of help that a lot of my professors knew people that worked at Bonneville, as well as one of my good friends was currently a promotions assistant there. So she did mention to me like, hey, we're hiring. I know that you're a big fan of 997 now. So if you're interested, I definitely encourage you to apply. So I did apply and I ended up getting the job. And 5 years later, we are where we're at now. So that's kind of how I got into working in radio.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you also kind of grew up like going to a lot of events, right?
Yeah, so I grew up not within the Bay Area, but it's kind of crazy that even though I lived a little bit outside of the Bay Area, I still listened to that station because I would always come here. So I definitely grew up going to the events, listening to, and I specifically remember, I think it was a Fifth Harmony concert or something. There was promo members out there or like street teamers, and they were just out there interacting with fans. And I remember I went up to one of them and I was like, how do you do what you're doing? Like, I want to do what you're doing because it looks so fun because you're just out there at concerts. I see you guys all the time. Whenever I was at an event or a concert, I would always go up to the booth and the tent because I'd always be like, oh my God, they're here. Like, so exciting. Like, what do they have? I want to say hi. She's here. So one time when I was actually in college, I was like, hey, like, are you an intern? How do you do what you're doing? And she basically was like, yeah, like I'm an intern. Definitely when you are in school or if we are applying to go ahead and apply and stuff like that. But it wasn't until years later where I got the opportunity. I don't think they do interns anymore. Now it was a paid position, but I just feel like, yeah, how you mentioned just like full circle that I grew up looking at these people and now I'm doing what they're doing. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, and it's funny because we were in similar spaces for a while and we were yeah, like it's kind of in similar circles and things, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
shows like we're always saying how the music industry is so small, and it really is. It's crazy because I attended a few events that Brenda was working at, and I remember she had pink hair, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like I once I started going to events, it was similar where I was like, how do I do what they're doing? And then almost a year later, like a few months later, like I had like a similar situation with me, and then we started working together.
Yeah, it's been so fun. But yeah, it definitely makes me so happy when people do go up to me and they're like, how do you do what you're doing? Or how do I get into that? So I'm like, that was the same energy I had back then too. So it makes me so
Yeah.
happy that people are still interested in radio.
Yeah,
That's really cool. I mean, the fact that you've been working in that realm for like a good amount of years right now, I think it also just shows how solidified you are with it and how you found your calling in that. And kind of interesting about how it feels like such an intangible type of discipline or field, like working in radio. Um, at least from my own experiences when I'm looking at like trying to find jobs in radio, it's like
Mhm.
such a thing that I've never even considered or even understood how to get into. So it's really interesting that you're not only looking for those opportunities and jumping at
Mhm.
those opportunities to just talk to people and also like pass on your wisdom to people who come up to you. I think that's really sweet. Um, and I think that's like what we're doing here at Jaded, where it's like, oh, you want to know? Oh, I got you. Like I'll tell you everything that we know.
No
So
gatekeeping.
no gatekeeping here.
No gatekeeping.
Um, so I kind of want to know, like, as someone who doesn't work in radio at all, like, what
Mhm.
is it like working as a promo assistant, and like, what's your day to day like?
Yeah, I could break down like what is a promo assistant, what is being on the street team is. And I like how you mentioned too that people are like, oh, I don't know how to get into radio or where do I start? It definitely is an entry level job. A lot of people that are now radio hosts or producers, a lot of people started out as a promo assistant. So it's definitely a good job to have to kind of get your foot in the door. So a lot of people do think like, oh, like I work in radio, I get to meet all these artists that come in every day and things like that. So I do want to clarify, it's not always so glamorous. People do describe the promo assistant position or street team as the position you take to kind of earn your stripes and kind of a little bit of the grunt work. But basically, our job is kind of insinuating in the name promo. We are promoting all the radio stations. So we do also work directly with like the sales department. If they book us for an event, it could be something glamorous like a concert or an artist event, but it could also be something simple like showing up at an AT&T store or showing up at a car show or showing up at a meat sales event. It could be things that are like very odd like that. But no matter what, we are still there representing the radio station. So we're either there promoting what events we have going on, promoting what event the vendor has going on, just showing face, tabling, talking to the listeners, engaging. Sometimes a on-air host would be there too, so kind of just being there. And then part of it also is working with social media. So we also do have a presence where we're showcasing the event that's going on, posting it on our socials. So that's kind of a lot of what the overall event working as well. We also do work directly with contests. So sometimes you are in the office cold calling people saying, hey, you won, kind of getting their info and helping with that as well. So that's kind of an average what everyday task would be. But yes, of course, sometimes you do get those fun events where one of your favorite artists comes in and you get to help out with that. Of course, that's also really fun. But also you just have to remember that it's not going to be like that every day.
Yeah, I think even if you're not interested in working in radio for the long term, I do think
Mhm.
that radio, like working as a promo assistant, is a very like versatile like job to
It
kind of
is.
get your foot in the door. Like Brenda said, like it's event experience. It's really testing your customer service skills because there's going to be people who it's very 50-50. You get the people who come up and they're like, I love this station so much. Like, they're so diehard and they know everything about you and they make it so easy. And then the other 50% don't care. You have to deal with people who are just like, who are you? Like, why are you here? And you really have to like turn it on. And it's very similar to when you're working at a regular customer service job where you have to be nice and you have to be personable and you also have to know like who is 99.7 now, who is KBLX, who is KFox, which
Mhm.
are other those are other stations that are under Bonneville, and you have to be able to like sell the brand essentially, which I think is super important to know when it comes to music if you want to be a manager or if you want to work at a label. Like at the end of the day, you're selling the artist, you're selling the tour or the merch. So it's like I think all of those skills are really transferable and people wouldn't necessarily know. but it definitely is like it can be 50-50 where it's like, oh my God, role models in the studio, hell yeah.
Hmm.
But then it's like, oh my God, I have to go to an AT&T store. Ugh. But it's like it's all about the experiences, and like not every job is going to be, like you said, like glamorous 24/7.
For sure. And yeah, I love how you mentioned the customer service because that is a big part of it as well because people are coming to you with questions. Of course, if you're wearing like the branded logo, they're like, oh my God, you work for the station. I can't find my tickets. Where do I go? So things like that, like, especially if you don't have the answer, you also have to just be very ready to like, hey, like, I might not have the answer, but let me help solve and get the answer for you, things like that as well. But yeah, you just want to make sure that no matter what, a listener leaves happy and you leave a good impression.
Yeah. And I wanted to go back to something that Kelly said, where you said, like, when it comes to radio, like, there, it seems that it's, like you said, it's kind of like a mystery of, like, how do you get in, or, like, what are the different roles there? And, like, how you said, Brenda, like, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, they kind of start in promo. And when you're working in promo, you kind of are introduced to all the different areas. You're introduced to sales, you're introduced to digital, you're introduced to the on airs and the program directors and producers, and you kind of learn a little bit of everything. And I feel like there's so much about radio and all of those different avenues that a lot of people don't know. I think it would be interesting if we kind of dive into those different departments and like what they do versus like how
Mm-hmm.
we support them, if anyone is interested in learning more, or maybe they want to get into a specific area.
Yeah, and also before you
Yeah.
jump into that, I wanted to also ask, because you do mention that being a promo assistant is more so entry level than it is like, I guess, long term, like the thing that you maybe would want to do for like the rest of your life. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering, like, you've observed so many different types of departments in radio just by being there, really. And ha have you seen anything that you were like, okay, I love what I do now, but I would love to do that long term? Or like, are there any types of places that draw your attention or something that you want to work towards and use the promo assistant gig as like stepping stone for it? Is that the
For
word?
sure. Yes.
Yeah, that's my
Sounds
question.
good. Sounds good. Yeah, I think I'll start with Joanna's and then that will kind of be like a good segue into Kelly's question. But yes, there is lots of different areas in radio. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, automatically if you're in radio, your goal is to be an on-air host. That could be really cool as well, but for me personally, that wasn't really my end goal. It could possibly happen in the future, who knows? But I feel like a lot of people that started at promo also ended up maybe being producers. So a lot of times, especially like the morning show is a whole like production. They have segments, they have different things as well. So they do need producers to help coordinate those segments, making sure everything runs smoothly. So a few of my former or colleagues, not former, but colleagues currently that were promo assistants have now become producers. We also do have people that are in the digital department, which I'll kind of get into a bit as well. We also do have um, like program directors as well, people that oversee the entire production of a radio station, kind of calling the shots of what the segments are, what the music is going to be played. But going back to the digital department, I feel like that's definitely the department that I felt myself where I gravitated towards. So now I'm kind of being more involved in digital. An opening did come up where I got the opportunity to kind of show a little bit more of my interest and have the opportunity to dive more into digital, which is really exciting. But yeah, overall, social media, digital, graphic design, I'm kind of learning a little bit more about as well. I've definitely had people that currently work there that I had to use as examples and learn from, which I'm very grateful for. But yes, definitely that's kind of the realm that I am gravitating toward being more involved in social, digital, and media as well.
Yeah, and that was something that we wanted to ask about in general.
Mm-hmm.
Was, obviously, you started off just solely promotions was like the number one gig at radio. Pretty much same thing as me, but more recently you had the opportunity to like really, join the digital team, and we've been able to do that together. So I wanted to talk about kind of how that came about, And if was digital always something that you wanted to pursue, or was that something that when, being around it all and seeing the
Mhm.
people who, used to be in our positions and are now gone, like seeing them work, like was that something that is what drew you in, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, I feel like when I started in radio, especially as a promo assistant, I didn't really have an idea like, oh, I this is what I want to do. I feel like because I was in promo, it helped me kind of just observe a lot of what the roles were. And yeah, kind of how you said, I would see the people that were on digital that, oh, like this is something that you could do. Like this is a part of being in the industry. Like, wait, I actually really like that. Because I know personally back then, before I was even in radio, I would always like be into like making graphics or I would vlog like the concerts I would go to. So then I discovered like, wait, I could actually kind of get paid for making little vlogs and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely I would see what we would be doing. I'm like, wait, this is really fun. So an opportunity did come where they had an opening for a digital department. And I know me and Joanna, we both kind of described our interests like, hey, we've kind of dabbled a little bit in socials. Maybe this is the opportunity where I could show what I can do because I didn't really have the opportunity to do that before. And yeah, we've just been really lucky that they ended up really liking what we were able to do. And so far, we've been getting really good feedback about how things have been going, which I'm really happy about. But yeah, I definitely think social media and content creating and graphics is something that I've always been really into. I've always really been into editing and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I'm really happy that I'm able to do that right now.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that because I feel like we both feel super grateful that we're like now in this position, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily something that was handed to us, I think. I think
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it was definitely a lot of like for Doja Cat, I remember when Doja Cat was here in the Bay Area. We didn't handle socials that day because that time we had the digital department who came and that was, what they were
Mm-hmm.
doing. But when it comes to we worked a Snoop Dogg concert, that was something that would be on us. So yeah, it kind of came to the point where we were just like, okay, like when we do have the opportunity to do it, we're going to do the best that we can so that hopefully, somebody notices that, that's something that we love and that's something that we're decent at and we have the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to do more of it. And I think it's a testament to speaking what you want into existence. And for
Mm-hmm.
people who are listening, like if that's something that you want, I think something that me and Brenda have seen at the radio station is like you're not people can't read your mind and they can't know that this is something that you want to do unless you tell somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was just about to say that as well. Don't be afraid to speak up because I know I have other promo members that some of them are working in film, some of them are working in audio, and I've been really adamant about like, hey, sometimes they don't know that you want to maybe shadow them to work audio or help work with the lighting. So definitely in these kind of positions, you need to not like speak up, but also, yeah, share that you're interested because a lot of people in the building are very wanting to help. They're very like, hey, you want to shadow me during an on-air shift? You want to see how the board works? They're very open to that. So don't be afraid to be like, hey, like, I want to learn how to work cameras or how does the lighting work or how does the audio work? Use all the people in the building that you can, learn as much as you can. Because, yeah, you might not, maybe radio is where you want to be, but even if radio isn't where you want to be permanently, use everything you can while you're there to help get you progressing in the future as well.
I like that what you're saying about that because I think someone, and by someone I mean Joanna, can learn about that where personal story, where there's a lot to gain from things that even if it's not necessarily your end goal,
Mm-hmm.
um, there is a lot to learn from all the experiences that everyone has. Like, for example, my friend is in communications and she's doing projects in like audio and editing, and she's like, I really hate this. This is not what I want to do with my life. But I'm not in communications at all, and sometimes I show up to her class like we sit in her auditorium like an hour early. We just chat. We see like the people who work in lighting or the people who work in audio, and I'm just like observing everything that they're doing because it's so fascinating to me. I love
Mhm.
anything that has to do with any type of creation, which makes me fickle, but it makes me really curious. So I think there's a lot to learn, not just, even if it's something that isn't necessarily interesting to you about radio, it's something that you could learn about just wherever you work. There are a lot of different
Mhm.
people with a lot of different skill sets that um, you can really just rely on. And uh, kind of jumping off of that, I did want to ask you, based off of, I guess also like your experiences working there and building off of that, what are some tips other than, observing others and asking questions? What are some tips that you could give to people who are trying to enter radio, or some skills that maybe not necessarily that has to do with graphic design or video editing that
Mhm.
might.
Yeah, I would say, especially if you're in school, check to see if your school does have a radio program. I know for me, initially, I started at one school. I was studying communications, and then I realized I'm not going to name drop the school because I don't want to like diss them or anything. But I was like, oh, like I need a little bit more hands-on. So I found the school that I did end up going that had a television studio. They had a radio station, and I was on college radio. And I feel like that's initially what made me fall in love with the whole world of radio. Like I had my own show, it was fun. So that's like maybe I'll be an on host in the future. We'll see. But it also made me learn the other realms of it as well. Like, oh, there's programming, there's directing and things like that as well. So if you do get the opportunity to take a radio class, whether you want to work radio or be a host in the future, I definitely encourage that as well. But yeah, as far as definitely look online. I know a lot of radio stations are wanting it. They might advertise it as activation member, promo street team, anything like that. Don't be afraid to look. If you have, every city has a radio station, so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find something. But yes, I definitely encourage to look to see what you can find and see what's out there because I definitely feel like something like this would be a very good entry level job.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned that like even if you're living in a small town and you feel like, there's nothing near me, there's no like this or that, whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
if you turn on the radio, there's definitely something playing. There's a radio station somewhere, even if like for example, we work at a company that has radio stations all across the board in terms of genres. There's obviously like the top 40 like hits station, which is going to be like kind of like the bread and butter that like me and Brenda really work with.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also R&B and hip hop. There's throwbacks. There's also a classic rock station. There's another like kind of like indie station. So there's a lot of different things. Even if you don't necessarily love country, but the area that you live in has a really big country radio station, like just get into it and see what opportunities are there. Front desk, even receptionists, admin assistants. Um, Again, like there's so many different things there that you can just use as a way to kind of get your foot into the door, and learning about how those types of businesses run and how a production runs, even if you don't want to work in
Mm-hmm.
radio, I think is so valuable. Like Brenda said, we have like a lot of coworkers we've had in the past have been more about film or more about sports and like different types of areas. They're not necessarily into music like me and Brenda are,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still able to use this opportunity to learn about lighting, social media, how to produce an event, how to work with a team. Like there's so many different things that you can learn.
Like you said as well, one of our old coworkers, he now got moved to a different location within our realm. He was a guy that didn't really listen to the kind of music that we did. He was very much a sports guy, but now he has been transferred over, and I think he's like has his own like talk show or kind of something about sports. So yeah, even if music isn't your thing, find your niche within it, gain all the experience that you can, and then again, it will help you move forward to whatever realm that you want to be in. I think he's more in audio and stuff like that. But I'm like, you know what? Good job. You did what you were supposed to do. Now you're in your realm that you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to, something that I wanted to mention also, because I know we said, like, don't be afraid to speak up, don't be afraid to make
Mhm.
your interests known and to let people know, like, I want to, learn more about this, this, and this. Sometimes it's easier said than done. I feel like for a while, like you said, like with your own experiences, you felt like you weren't given the opportunity to kind of let your talents shine and like let your passions shine and be able to really speak up on that. And then I feel like a lot of people kind of deal with that. Like, some of our coworkers have been a little more like shy and they're like, I don't know how I feel about, I'm kind of nervous. Like, if you're introverted versus extroverted, like there's a lot of different things that come into it. And maybe you don't feel super close to your boss, or maybe you don't
Mhm.
feel like the environment is open enough to speak up. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and like your experience with that and any tips when it comes to that, because I feel like you're kind of like on the edge of like introvert and extrovert, I feel like. So I feel like it'd
For
be interesting.
sure. For sure. I love that you mentioned that because I know when I first started, I am definitely more introverted. So part of this job definitely is going up to people, asking them. So I know when I first started, I struggled with that a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, like I have to ask them for a picture. It was a little bit hard. So I know at the start of my promo career, I probably wasn't the greatest. I was shy. But I think, yeah, it just kind of does take time of getting used to it. I think throughout the years, you've seen me more at my extroverted, like, okay, I've been doing this for so long. I get it. But for those people who are a little bit introverted, kind of afraid to ask as well, like you said, if you're not maybe comfortable talking to like an on-air talent, because I know sometimes they can be a little intimidating or a boss, reach out to your peers. That's why now I try to be that person, especially because I have been one of the people that have been here the longest. I know how that felt about, oh, like, I don't know if they will listen to me. I'm a little shy. Now I do try to be that person, like, hey, like, do you want me to speak to them for you? I will put in a good word for you. Um, I do encourage you to like kind of find that coworker that you kind of trust and maybe has been there a little bit longer. Ask them for help and guidance if you don't feel comfortable or ready enough to ask them yourself.
Yeah, because it definitely can be really intimidating, especially with, like you said, promo. I feel like it's very well known that promo is like at the bottom of the food chain when you're like a promo
Mm-hmm.
assistant, because you're a
Mm-hmm.
part-time employee, sometimes it feels like you can be a little bit on the outside, but also like we said, when you're in those entry level positions, like use everything that you can to learn as much as
Mm-hmm.
you can. And the really great thing about being a promo assistant is you meet people from all of those different areas, because we're at the sales events meeting the salespeople. When the
Mm-hmm.
on-air people come, we meet them. When the digital people come, we meet them. Like it's a really great networking opportunity too, regardless of like what area you want to work in.
Yeah, and I think it also did take me a while to realize that people are actually wanting to be there to help you. I know when you first start, they're like, they don't know who I am. They don't want to talk to me. It's fine. But I think there was a moment where people were like, you guys are the next generation. We want to help develop you because you are potentially the next on-air talent. You are potentially the next um, big producer. So they definitely are really eager to talk to you, to speak to you, to help develop you, because essentially you are going to be the next people once they step down or once they leave. They want to, you're the next generation.
Yeah,
And something that
exactly.
I've also seen, like, maybe I don't work in radio, but just like as a general thing, I'm a very shy person, so and socially anxious. So it's definitely hard to like reach out to people and ask questions, but I think like even finding your most comfortable way of approaching that. Like I sent someone an email and I was like, "Hey, I heard that you're doing this and that. Can I pick your brain about like what you do?" And she replied instantly and she was like, "Yeah, of course. I don't know who you are, but sure." Um, People are generally really nice, and if they're not, they weren't worth it in the first place. Like,
For
a lot
sure.
of people are so willing to give advice. because everyone's been in the same position where they didn't know what they were doing or like they needed that advice. So they're gonna be wanting to give that out, you know? That's what I've seen.
For sure. I like that you said that. If someone's unwilling to give you advice, you maybe don't want advice from that person.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Because it's definitely, again, it's easier said than done to even send the email to talk to somebody. Like, not
Hmm.
everybody's going to be welcoming, and like, that's fine. But, find the people who are. But I really credit the people like above me and Brenda who have like believed in us because
Hmm.
they're the reasons why we now get to do so many cool things. Like we were able to go to Charlie XCX. I literally cried when I got that text to say that we were going to Charlie XCX. Like that and like, stuff like, there's all the fun stuff that we get to do, but then
Hmm.
there was a lot that led to that,
Hmm.
and again, like crediting the people above us who were nice enough to vouch for us. And a lot of that was, when they were there, we took the time to get to know them too and just be friendly and just, try to find that common ground and just chit chat, especially if it's a radio station, talk about music, like talk about the releases that you love and what's coming up and like your favorite artists or whatever. Like there's always going to be something that you can talk about. Um, and try to kind of break that shell a little bit.
For sure. And I also kind of want to go off of something that you just said is that they definitely notice when you do take initiative, not only for the artists and fun events, but for like the normal events as well. Because they also will take notice if you're only eager to jump in and help out when it is an artist-based forward event. Because they're like, oh, like she only puts in the effort when it's something that she's excited for. But if you're also consistent and you show that no matter what, you are available, you are reliable, they will notice. And then because of that, they're like, because she has worked so hard, because she has consistently shown that she's someone that we can rely on, then they will be like, hey, when their opportunity is available, that you will be the first one that they will reach out to and think of.
Yeah, and obviously like everyone wants to do the fun stuff.
Of
Everyone
course.
wants to, have the opportunity to work with their favorite artist or to go to the concert or whatever. Like everyone wants that. But it doesn't necessarily come easily. Like you really do have to work towards that, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And also like picking and choosing that, like you said, like they can really you can tell when like the energy is put more here versus it is there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Me and Brenda were having a conversation the other day, and I was saying like, if your goal is to work at a label, I think this is really transferable advice as well. Like if your goal is to work at a label, you might not necessarily be the biggest fan of the artist that you're working with or even love, the direction that they're going in terms of the music, in terms of like the vision. You might not necessarily 100% agree, but that doesn't mean that you have to put less effort in when it comes to creating the campaign, when it comes to whatever. You still have to give it your all. And then, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the next artist and you're a super fan and you're like, oh my God, I've waited my whole life to work with this artist, give that same amount of energy to your favorite artist like you would, to the other one that you don't necessarily quote unquote care about.
No, yeah, for sure. And one thing I realized too is that when you're working in radio, you work a lot directly with the labels. Like for example, like we just had like Role Model just came in and his label came in with us. And before he even came in, they wanted a little bit of insight of what our plans were, about like socials and stuff like that. And then we got when we were promoting that he was coming in, our boss was like, hey, like the label gave us feedback that they love what they see and things like that. And I was like, great, like role models and their team is happy. So yeah, in the future, they could, if you do end up working for whatever label, they could be like, oh yeah, like you were working at that radio station, you did that content. Maybe you could come do something for us or something like that as well. So you never know who's going to be seen. You never know who you could potentially meet when you're working these events, because they see everything.
Yeah, honestly. So even if you're listening and you're like, I don't know if I want to work in radio, I feel like it's very 50-50. Like, do people believe, I feel like people are like, oh, radio is dead and blah, blah, blah. But like, there's still like you'll be shocked at the amount of people who still listen to the radio. So many people still use the radio as their source of info, as their source of what new music is out or whatever. Like there's still like a huge demographic of people who are listening, and it's still very much alive, maybe in a different capacity, but there's definitely still opportunities to be had with radio. But yeah, I guess going into our final question.
When you're working in such an industry that is so, I guess, competitive as well as demanding, and you're still within that entry level position and you're still going, you still have so much ahead of you, right? There's a lot that could, I guess, come and interfere with your progression, or maybe there are some things that like will get you down. So as we ask all of our guests, have you ever gotten a little jaded, and has that ever led you to different types of I forgot the word. You get the point.
Yeah, I definitely what you're saying. Definitely, I feel like no matter what, you're always gonna have those moments where you're like, oh, I don't know if what I'm doing is good enough. Are people noticing? Especially with content creation and social media. I feel like nowadays, I don't want to say it's like oversaturated of like everyone is doing social media and stuff like that, but it is very easy to kind of compare like when you're editing, like, oh, look at what they're doing. Like, how do they do that? When am I gonna get that good? And stuff like that. But I think, yeah, it's also kind of important to just believe in yourself and just know that you are your own person and you're going to get better. You're always going to improve. We're always learning. Each reel or TikTok that I make, I try to improve with the next one I make. But yeah, I feel like everyone just kind of has those moments where they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I good enough? But all I got to say about that is just keep believing in yourself, keep pushing, because in the end, it will make something will come about it, and you're just gonna be happy that you put in that work.
There was something that you said as well where, that comparison of, oh, is what I'm doing as good as what they're doing, or, whatever. And especially like in our position, like the people who were, we learned from the people who were above us, and those people are now
Mm-hmm.
gone. And like looking back at the work that they were doing, and you just, there's always going to be that, am I as good? Or, is this what they want? Is this what they like? And whatever. Um, and even with, you and me working together, like your graphics look different than my graphics. Does that mean that yours are better than mine or mine are better than yours? Like, not necessarily. Like, it's just everyone
Mm-hmm.
is different. And like you said, everyone's like on a different trajectory and learning differently and has different styles and different ways that they approach things. And that's fine. It doesn't mean that one way is better than the other. And I think that that's something that's really important. Like, no matter what area you're interested in getting into, to think about that.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like looking at other things, look at it as a means of inspiration rather than like, oh my God, they're so much better than me. Just like, okay, like I'm chronically online. I'm always on TikTok. So I'm like, oh my God, like an idea, like that was so smart. That was so fun. Maybe I could do something like that in the future rather than being that mindset. I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? Or, oh, like I wish I could edit like that. Just take it as a note, like, ooh, that was cute, inspiration. Maybe I could do something like that in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Just use it. Honestly, yeah, just use it as motivation. When you see somebody doing
Mm-hmm.
something that you want to be doing, go do it. Or like learn how to do it. Try to,
Mm-hmm.
practice.
For
Um,
sure.
I'm definitely not a graphic designer, but it's practice, and like it's still, you know, everything is a work in progress. Like nobody has to be perfect at anything.
Mm-hmm.
I
For
like that
sure.
you landed on that. I think it's a great way to end it. I think there's like so much to um take from the idea of like trying not to compare yourself and bring yourself down, but use that as a means of inspiration and as a means to push yourself to grow, whether that be in graphic design or digital, or literally sending emails. Like any type of work that you do, you can gain experience and gain opportunities to learn through observation and through just appreciating other people's work as well.
I think that's a good place to end off. If you guys want to learn more about like radio and all of that, be sure to follow Brenda.
Mm.
She's always posting about, radio stuff on her own pages. Is it okay if people like connect with you on LinkedIn if they're interested in
Yeah,
that?
for sure. Yes. Connect with me. I am more than happy to share what I can and give you guys advice and just be friends and connect. I love meeting people in the industry.
Yeah,
Great.
cool. And then yeah, if anyone wants to learn more about Brenda too, we're going to be posting about it. It should already be up on our Instagram, so go check that out.
Thank you so much, Brenda. All of what
Thank
you
you
said was
guys.
so interesting and so insightful. I'm really grateful that you sat down with us and answered all of our annoying questions. So, thank you again. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been another episode of A Little Jaded.